I'm Chip Gettinger with SDL.
My name is Laura Bellamy from VMware.
And we're here to talk today about VMware's journey in a number of aspects and their adoption, for years of structured content, acrolinks, translation. And Laura, why don't you tell the group a little bit about yourself, your background?
Yeah, I think I have a slide that you can look at while I talk. So this is me. I'm the Director of Information Experience at VMware. And I manage the product documentation team. So we produce help systems, guides, tutorials, videos, anything that helps the customers understand how to better use our products. So a little bit about me. Chip mentioned my journey, and actually I'm one of the few people in a product documentation space that aimed for this profession. I actually studied and have a degree in technical writing, started out as a technical writer, an information architect. So unfortunately to my team, I'm that horrible boss that used to do their job, so I know what they did. I helped build our information model in DITA and the content management system. So I obviously have a passion for this industry in this area and love to be here and at conferences, because I think if you guys are like me, you have heard so many similarities already this morning. We've only had a handful of presentations, and already you're like, that is my problem too. I have to tackle that issue as well. So I love coming here to hear about what everybody is doing. And one of the themes I've already heard is transformation. Right? People really talking about the need to transform their business, transform the way they're doing things, and even the transformation that customers are going through and our need to keep up with those experiences. So that's been a real interesting theme that I hope I can share some from VMware about the transformation we're going to, but also to hear more about your guys' transformations as well. One thing I'd like to know, though, so I'm from the product documentation space, but I know we have a mix here. How many people here are from marketing? And how many from technical documentation, product documentation? Okay, anyone from curriculum, education, training? Okay, some others? Localization? Okay, so actually a real big mix here.
It's a great mix. So we'll also save a few minutes at the end for questions from the audience. I have a few questions for Laura. We've known each other a few years, huh?
Yep.
So it's great to be here. So we talked a few weeks ago, kind of prepping for this event, and you talked about working at the speed of business. And Laura, one of the things you remarked about VMware was your move to cloud software as a service products and the impacts that has had on some of your processes from authoring, translation, content management. Could you talk a little bit about that? And then I have some questions about customers and so forth.
Yeah. Our company is going through a transformation to offer a lot of our businesses as software as a service, cloud services. And so that includes everything, the cultural transformation of that, process change, some technology change, but also for us to consider that speed of business piece, right? As our company changes, and my team supports all products. We support 95% of the products at VMware, and last year we had 423 releases that my team produces content for. And there's a big range, right? Some of our larger products deploy once every 12 months for a big on-prem enterprise solution. And then we also have lightweight agile services, and those deploy twice a day, 3 times a day. And so the challenge there and the transformation that we're going through right now is trying to understand how can we develop processes, use technology, get skills, build up a team that can handle all of that, the whole range of that, not just specialize in one or the other, but really to evolve to support everything that a customer needs in all the product documentation sets we're owning. So with that transformation to SaaS too, we're finding that we're more tightly integrated with our R&D organization. And with that, you guys are probably in the same situation I am. It's not that you can disconnect from marketing or from training or from your field, but as you move more tightly, more agilely, more quickly with the product team to release at the speed that the team is evolving and releasing, you still have those touch points into other areas that might not feel that release pressure. So that's something of a challenge that we're trying to keep up with right now, and we're looking for tools and technologies and processes that will help us to keep that high quality. That's the thing too. The business sets the goal for when they're going to release and what they expect, and it's up to you to maintain that quality as you go forward. So that's definitely been a challenge.
So I love the fact that despite all this agility, more speed, more focus on deadlines and so forth, you're improving content quality, and specifically using acrolinks in that. And secondly, Laura, you talk about automation. So how do you use some of those tools specifically within this team now?
Yeah, like you've heard, and like many of you, we first came to Acrolinks for scale. We have 75 writers on our team, global team, and couldn't have enough editors. We were in the same situation as Tyson mentioned. Our editors couldn't cover the scope of content that we were publishing, let alone, don't forget about all that legacy content you have. Right? We're increasingly finding that our team sits pre-release and we're focused on all the new features, all the new content coming up, and we weren't paying any attention to the legacy content. We were saying if there's no change needed to it, don't look at that topic, don't look at that article, don't look at that publication. But of course, when customers come to the content, they expect the same level of quality and relevance across all of it. And so as we were looking across our entire scope of content, that legacy plus the new content plus the speed of business and how we can support it, we came to Acrolinks to try to see if we could improve our content quality. And I really like Tyson's thing about the failure and then needed to reset. That is exactly our story as well. Our first attempt with Acrolinks, we shoved in all of our terms, all of our style guideline, all of our rules, just crammed it on in. And this is like a surgeon with a knife, I guess. I said, oh, look what we can do. Then I want to do all of it, right? And so we started this huge rule set. And we rolled it out to our team. And first of all, they said, this is so annoying. This is bugging me. No, I'm going to opt out. I don't want to use it. So that was the first challenge. And then the second challenge we had, people were just gaming the tool. They go, oh, if I only need to hit this quality score, what can I do to hit this quality score? And they change their content to hit the score and be like, I'm done. But was the content any better or not, right? So they felt a pressure to it. And so with our reset, we actually took a step back and we said, what are our goals? What is it we're actually trying to achieve? And then we met with Acrolinks and said, how can you help us to accomplish these things? And we didn't necessarily have answers. It wasn't just more terms or let's change our style guideline rules. It was really related to the core principle of quality. What is quality has so many dimensions too. That was one of the big things for us to understand. You're looking for this one KPI, this one metric you can report, but does quality mean accuracy? Does it mean clarity? Does it mean concreteness, completeness, right? Visual effectiveness? How do you measure all of those things across a quality scope? And so one of the things we did was create a quality plan across all of those different dimensions to say, what is it we want to capture? Then we decided, how can we get to capturing the information related to that? And Acrolinks was one of the pieces that helped us really around quality, clarity, tone to capture some information. And so when we rebooted and re-implemented and worked this year, we're really orienting towards achieving our goals in that space. And one thing that we've evolved in our thinking of using Acrolinks right now is using Acrolinks to drive that transformation. Because it's one thing to look retrospectively in the mirror or even as you create content to say, do you hit that goal? But if you know you're evolving, your goals are evolving, your KPIs are evolving, your content's evolving, how can you use the score to be a part of driving that change? So one of the big changes we're going through right now with the SaaS implementation is tone. We're really coming out of a business where we had heavy legacy content, big manuals and guides, and we really want to evolve that towards lightweight, answer-focused information. We're really changing our tone as a business as part of changing our brand and changing our voice to the customer. And we're using Acrolinks to get a baseline of where we are now and then to set a suite range that will evolve over time. As our content evolves over time, as our team evolves over time, and as our thinking evolves over time, we can adjust that as we go forward. So it's not that we have the best idea right now and we're working towards it. It's that we're using it live to evolve with us to kind of drive some of that change.
So you talk about measuring quality. How about your customers? What feedback do you have from the customers of these changes? How do you measure that? And what do your writers think of that feedback that they get from customers?
Yeah, that customer voice is so important. And one thing consistently from our writers they say is, I need more customer data. If I had more customer feedback, I would know what to write. And one of the key pieces, my thinking over the last few years has been around analytics. And we heard this morning that you're measuring content consumption, not content quality, and not content value, right? So we were using web analytics a lot as a way of customer feedback, right? It's totally low-hanging fruit to get the web analytics. That's great, and it has some useful insights into it. But when I turned over the web analytics to my team and I said, take a look, now decide what to do. The web analytics don't tell you what to do going forward, right? They won't tell the writer, here's what you need to do, here's what you need to change. They only tell you what's happening right now with the content you already created. And so one of the things we're using the web analytics for, and Acrolinks' other analytics, KPIs, and feedback, customer feedback, is to test a hypothesis. And this is an evolution of our thinking. That writers, editors, managers, information architects, they have ideas about where the content should go. And in a tight, agile cycle, you can test those ideas. Let's try it. Throw it out there. Then we measure, now what are we seeing? Are we seeing increased hits, views? For our videos, are we seeing increased playthrough rates and subscribers to our YouTube channel? Are we seeing ratings on our topics increase, the average quality score? Comments, do you get more comments driven on it? Do you get more customer feedback? Or the reverse, do you get less because you've solved a problem, right? So actually, all of these things are coming together to help us test ideas that we might have about how we evolve our content.
Yeah, and your team's distributed. I mean, you have authors around the world, right? How do they work, how they collaborate together, how they work together and communicate?
Yeah, we've been in Data XML and in a content management system with our content for about 10 years now. And one of the things we had originally thought is, if you use one tool and one process, then of course you work together. You're working together, right? And we even had for some of our large deliverables or products, we have teams co-authoring together. We thought, well, surely they're working together then too. Look, we have multiple authors in a single publication. We are collaborating. And it's only when you put it in front of customers, right, that you see, actually, this is disjointed. This doesn't say the same thing. Half of this is out of date. It doesn't hang together, let alone when you try to use those products together, right? If your customers are buying multiple products or services, sometimes that's where it falls apart.
And those products come and go, that the way you coordinate, and now you're part of Dell EMC, right?
That's right. VMware is part of the Dell Technologies family. And we are increasingly working with our Dell, EMC, and our other partners in that community to even see beyond our company walls how we can share content towards solutions. Yeah. And so to be able to say, to drive a consistent voice when those come together, even as an OEM that we provide our content to a partner, right? Voice is going to be very important for that. But as a solution set too. With third parties, even I see a need to have, some regulations around tone or guidelines or terminology. And maybe Chip, that's something you can speak to. We heard terminology mentioned as a real important dimension of Acrolinks, but I see a real need to tie in terminology, taxonomy, SEO, all of those things together. Is that a trend you're seeing customers talk about too?
Oh, absolutely. Where's Val Swisher? Okay, she wrote a great white paper on that. Hey, Val, you're my hero. So, absolutely. I've been in structured content for 20 years, so it's been a huge transition, I think, in the last couple of years I've seen. And the biggest change I've seen is the shift towards, or I should say away from a traditional table of contents kind of map approach of content, a taxonomy. And the problem I see, and I've worked with your colleagues at Dell EMC, the problems we see is if the tone of voice, the content was written different times, you can have a very rich taxonomy to go deliver out topics that you combine them together and they don't have any meaning together. We have several customers at SDL that are healthcare provider information. HealthWise in Boise, Idaho is a big customer. And they found that by combining content together, it didn't make sense because it was written at different times. Mm-hmm. So I think the investments in content quality are really a great step to improving that. Mm-hmm. And also, Laura, I like the fact that you mentioned legacy content, because the other trend I see is products don't always go away. They just kind of get more mature. Mm-hmm. But there's still a revenue stream for your company. So it's understanding the revenue where your customers are buying products. And then the other final trend I'm seeing is what I'll think of as a content mashup. And this means a number of things depending on when you're coming from. I love the GitHub approach. There's a lot of really ingenuity coming out of there. The thing that we're seeing is at SDL that maybe not all your content is in structure. There could be other sources that it's coming from. So the real trend now that we're borrowing from the web world is to unify a taxonomy across different systems. You've done some of that work at VMware, and we're seeing that with structured content, that if you line a taxonomy around your delivery for your customers, they'll have more personalized content, If it's coming from a learning management system, a support article, knowledge article, or documentation, you really shouldn't matter. And I want to talk about translation next, but that's kind of my trends I'm seeing.
One of the things that you said that kind of speaks to where I am is the ideal world, I would have a content hub and I wouldn't have silos. Yeah. I don't control that decision to some extent, so I do have silos, right? My content is one of many content organizations in my company, but a taxonomy can help bridge that, right? That maybe we have different, voices and acrolinks as well as the way we produce content, but to really unify it when it goes out to the public world, because consistently customers don't know docs from KB articles, from marketing, from white papers, from data sheet, right? It's all your content. And so to have the taxonomy and to acrolinks to kind of to be able to drive some of that standardization is so important for what the company puts out. But one thing we're learning about is the customer's voice. We have found that sometimes we speak differently than customers speak. How do you use their terms to get the content to them? And these tools are helping us to discover that and then to bridge that gap. Not so that we go back and rewrite the way we do everything, but how can we use that to improve our SEO for the findability, retrievability of that content?
It's interesting, and about terminology you mentioned, for a number of us, for years, terminology was managed in the translation side of things. Now, STL's partnership with Acrolinks has allowed us to expose terminology stored in translation, world server type systems through Acrolinks. And that's real time for authors. And they don't know where that terminology is coming from, but you have a consistency then. That terminology can be shared among the organization. And then finally, you have that ability to make changes and suggestions. So there's a lot of work going on that, terms that aren't correct are changing. For example, in cloud-based companies, I see you start with beta, then you go here and this, and the product names changes or something like that. You just don't have that time anymore to go back and manually change it. You have to automate that control, or you're going to confuse the heck out of your customers.
And that's part of, if you look at the dimensions that you try to control, you try to control faster, cheaper, better. And faster, tools, process change, right? Okay, that one I feel like is the first one you kind of try to tackle. And then, cheaper, okay, you try to cost optimize, you try to squeeze what you can, right? That one's easy, but better. That's the hard part to tackle, right? To measure that value piece. And so to head towards the quality metrics towards that, that's the way you try to do all three things. But the better is definitely the harder one, and the more insight you get into value dimensions, I think the better that journey is.
It's interesting. I'm working with a number of customers doing their second generation CMSs. Where's Stacy? Let's see. No, never mind. Anyway, so there's folks out there, that you're going now through your next generation, and you can make changes and suggestions. The coolest thing I'm seeing is a real focus on customer usability of the content. And we have tools now where you can measure someone reading the page. I mean, we've been able to do that for years, but are they actually able to solve the problem or solve the solution? I want to shift a little bit and then maybe open up for the audience for a question or two before lunch. So let's talk about translation. When we were talking a few weeks ago, you told me, well, first off, for many of us that adopted structured content management systems, you saw years ago, elimination of desktop publishing, automation of publishing, did Open Toolkit. You also saw improved translation matching. So the ROI has been long achieved. So a lot of times I get asked, what's the new ROI? And one thing you talked about was you're even compressing your translation timeframes even more for your SaaS products. You want to talk a little bit about that? Yeah.
So as I mentioned, our SaaS products sometimes deploy multiple times a day. And we had previously held to a standard of simultaneous shipment, SimShip of our localized content, that when we deliver a product in English, we like to deliver it in all the languages that we support. And that was one of those goals and those differentiators and one of our quality values as a company. And so as we moved to these faster delivery cycles, we had to think, is that something we need to continue to provide? Is it important to customers? And then how are we going to achieve that? And so we realized it is important to customers. Serving global customers is absolutely critical. The localization team absolutely works hand in hand with my team as far as technology decisions for content management, for the tools we use, technologies, including Acrolinks. We really involve them because they're not just downstream, right? Strategic decisions are made upstream. And so through some of these tools and some of this evolution, now we're at a point where we deliver what we call just-in-time translation. And that's driven by very small segments of our English content, that when they're available and when our English content creation team releases that content, it triggers a workflow where the content can be localized. And we have we're under a week right now with the delivery time of that, but we have goals, and I'm not going to say them out loud because I don't want to be held to them. We have goals to even reduce that delivery time. And so some of that is process change, some of that is vendor change or skills change, but a lot of that is related to automation and machine learning and MT. And I know that's absolutely fundamental, and one of those things that's, like any tool and technology, really requires an ROI case to be made and some pilots and some refinement to be done to achieve the value. But I think it's absolutely critical towards getting some of that speed.
So that's a great point then, and you've really relied a lot on human translators, but machine translation, or MT, where you have an automation, that's playing more into the factor, is what you're talking about?
It absolutely is.
Do you see a combination of human and MT type approaches at VMware? Or?
Certainly, especially when you think of that tiered model about what is your high value content. You want that to have extra eyeballs on it because it might be held to a different standard. Or maybe it's new content, right? That for the first time you want something that's a key deliverable to be viewed as by human people. But also there's the different role evolution, that there's not translators, there's verification team members, right? Localization verification. And with all things data, and so one of the things we've introduced that has really been a best practice for us is a scorecard, where we do scorecards for what is our on-time delivery rate, right? What is our localization rate? And we monitor what was behind schedule, what didn't hit our deadlines, how can we evolve that? And then we look what was ahead of schedule, what achieved great results, where is a best practice that we can implement? And then with our vendors, we do a rating, a mutual rating, where we say, how do you rate yourselves on how VMware performed with providing you, and then here's how we rate you, because we view it as a partnership where we want to continue to evolve that and improve that as we go forward. We have a mutual goal. So using that data and that relationship has really been good towards our MT evolution.
Great. I have a couple SDL customers I'm working with using machine translation. And what they found is by utilizing acrolinks early in the source English content process, they have more predictable results in machine translation. So some interesting trends for us to watch probably for next year.
Absolutely.
So you want to take some questions from the audience?
Sure.
All right.
Hi, I'm Andrea, and I'm an editor at Google. And I have a question for Laura about the Acrolinks reboot you mentioned. You said that initially writers kind of maybe found the sidebar not as helpful as they could have, and they opted out, or they tried to game it and not get the score of 100, and they went for the minimum score. And I'm wondering how you fixed those two issues in your reboot.
Yeah. There's the one side of, and this is my own balance, one side of me wants to rule with an iron fist and mandate it, right? Because the only way you ensure consistent quality is to make sure everything requires consistent quality. So we've even talked about internally, maybe we just say you have to hit this number, otherwise you can't release your content, right? You won't get out the door in time. And what that does is incentivize people to get through it. One thing that we're using Acrolinks for, and I told my team, and I told Kristen, and I told several of the Acrolinks team members who have worked for me, my goal of Acrolinks is not just ensure I have quality content, make me better writers. Right? I have 75 writers on my team, and they need to continue to evolve and learn as our requirements and guidelines and customer expectations change as well. And if my perspective, if you mandate that score, they just go through the motion to get the score. Right? But we're really using Acrolinks as a teaching, educational, continued learning tool. Especially because your style guide changes, right? As you change a rule or a requirement or terminology, it'll put it in the server, put it in Acrolinks, and then it'll be enforced. So, we of course do announcements and have, meetings to our team to tell them as we evolve our style guide and our terminology, but sometimes Acrolinks is the one informing them. So what we have done is use it as a tool. It's a tool, and so I really like Andrew's mention of guidance for that, right? It's a tool to make you a better writer, and then we incentivize it. We actually, instead of saying, as a manager, you're not hitting your score, we incentivize people who improve the score over time. A lot of people originally said to us, they'd be a new writer, and they'd be like, the score is below the quality metric. You can't hold me accountable. I just joined this product. That's not my content. I don't want to be held accountable. And we said, you're only accountable going forward. What can you do to improve this score? Do you set a development goal? You want to improve this score by 10% in this quarter or for this release? And then we incentivize that behavior. So in that case, Acrolinx is actually working as an assistant to them to really help them improve this quality.
Hi, a question for Laura. Did you say that you have OEMs giving you content that you need to integrate?
Both ways. We take in content, and then
Okay.
we also provide content out.
How do can you offer tips on how you incentivize them to improve the quality? Because I work for Dassault SolidWorks, and we have OEM products that are handled by, the documentation is handled by the vendors, and I'm getting reports from the field that the documentation doesn't match SolidWorks documentation quality, and I'm struggling with how can Acrolinx perhaps be used to improve the vendor's quality?
Absolutely, and then I think the automation weighs into this too. One of the things we have is as we take in content, do checks on it as part of the take-in, right? To say your content is coming into my house, my shop now, let's run a quick check on it. And so instead of saying to my writers, now you need to repair all that content, it's on you, we've actually worked with some of the people that provide us content to go back and to say, actually, here's learning for you. You might not have this tool, you might have a different style guide, here's what we are seeing. We want to provide this proactively to you to see what you can improve. And in some cases, we partnered on some things. And then also evolution, absolutely. In some cases, we've adapted our style guideline and our rules to make sure they're more generic. Maybe they work with more partners in our community. So it's not necessarily a negative score, but it's a mutually agreed upon voice terminology that helps ensure consistency, right? Sometimes there's not a right or a wrong answer. There's just consistency, right, to help the customer provide it. So in some cases, we've changed our own rules and our own procedures to ensure that we can best work with our vendors and our partners.
Laura, you mentioned that you had developed a quality plan. I was just wondering if you could talk about how you developed that, what the elements of your quality plan?
Yep. We got together, we had a strategic offsite with our management team and our information architects and editors, and we started from scratch. We didn't say what we have today. Today I have X amount of editors, today we have these tools, today we have the style guide. We actually started with what are our goals. And last year, a few years ago, we actually just had metrics. It was like our year of metrics, and we had just had 1,000 metrics. It was almost like a metric audit. What numbers can we get? Let's get them all, and then let's see what we have. Part of our quality, we decided let's get KPIs. That it's not just enough to have a number for a number, that you need to have it, because it actually is a key indicator of something. And so as part of our quality plan, we wrote down all of our KPIs, and we said, now which one of these does quality influence? So, and then we actually went to customers too and said, what are your most important quality dimensions? And we asked our customers. And they had said the number one dimension of quality that matters to them is accuracy. And actually, key part of quality. Who cares how well you wrote it, if you translated it, if it's the best article in the world, if it's completely untrue, right? So as part of accuracy, what could we do to improve accuracy? And what are our goals related to accuracy? What's our KPI for accuracy? And then we work backwards. What tools do we need in place? What processes do we need in place? So that was one, and we have an accuracy program. Another one was Acrolinx in the new scorecard calls clarity, right? So that includes like spelling, grammar. So we wanted, overall writing quality, the simplicity of content, the completeness, right? So that one was, we developed a whole plan and KPIs related to that. We did visual effectiveness as one. This was a big one for us too. I'm increasingly, because I come from that writing background where I'm like, oh, look, the text says what it should say. People understand it. But visual perception means so much and is such a part of quality. The way people look at your content, they want to feel like, I'm going to find my answer here, right? They're going to feel like I'm willing to go deeper. They're going to want to feel like I can find what I'm looking for. And there are a lot of visual learners out there, right? So actually we did a whole visual effectiveness analysis to see, do we need more screenshots? Do we need to change our visual taxonomy? And that's actually something we came up with almost in the scope of Acrolinx as far as voice goes, to say your iconography, your images need to be the same across your marketing organization, your technical marketing, your learning and training organization. So that's another thing that drove us together as a company to kind of create visual standards across it. So for all of those different kind of dimensions, we took a look at, did a KPI, worked backwards on a technology and on a process, and some set skills and people. I will tell you, my team has evolved over the last 4 years. I've been in this position for 4 years, and the roles that we started with and then where we are now is very different. And I think you hear more and more about that in teams. You hear about, content strategists. You hear about BI and analytics team members, that their sole focus is to take a look at your content and your data and see how you can optimize it. And actually, as part of, what Tyson mentioned too, the reboot, I had the wrong people too with Acrolinks. And I originally had my editors running our Acrolinks implementation because I said, of course, you guys know terminology in the style guide, run the Acrolinks implementation. But what we really found was, there's complex architecture involved because we need to situate it at a place that many people can do usage of it. Actually, we have many plugins. We don't just want it from one tool. We want it from PowerPoint, PDF, HTML, and all these different data sources that we take in. And so, part of shifting your roles has actually come out of developing that quality plan of who we should be as an organization. We created a draft of that plan, we show it to our stakeholders, and now the KPIs that come out of that are KPIs that I report not only back to our team, but we report that to our internal stakeholders, like our R&D managers, the vice presidents of the different divisions and organizations, and my content producing peers. So they have transparency to what it is we're producing and how we're measuring that we're doing a good job.
I think one more question? Yeah.
Just wondering who runs Acrolinks now, if it's not the editors.
Yep, so actually our lead runner of Acrolinks is our solutions architect. And that is not only because he understands the integration of the system, but he speaks the business value. So he writes the business case, the ROI, the KPIs. He talks to the other divisions that are using Acrolinks beyond my organization as well. So we view the editors now as SMEs to Acrolinks, right? What is it we should be measuring? What does quality look like of the content? The content strategists on our team and information architect are SMEs to our Acrolinks implementation, but it's that solutions architect that really drives it and has been working with the Acrolinks team.
Great.
Great, well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Look forward to learning more.
Thank you. Yay. Good job.
Hi, everybody. So lunch is being served right outside of the rear door. If I could just ask everybody to be back by 1:30. I know we have to cut lunch a little bit, but our next presenter is actually catching a flight shortly after his presentation. So we'll try to make up for it.